Yo 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 YouTube, how's it going? It's me again, it's WatSim here with yet another Forza tuning video. And this is the first. This is my first four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, depending on where you're from in the world, car that I've actually uploaded. It's the Mitsubishi Evo 9. It's not very commonly used four-wheel drive in this game, which is something I'm actually a little bit happy with, because I don't like using common cars. And I'm really happy with it. It's a car that you really want to try and use in wet weather. Like, everyone wanted wet weather on Forza 6. Everyone's been asking for wet weather on Forza for years, and then it finally comes. Everyone gets it, and now a lot of people moan about it. Oh, I don't like the weather. I don't like the rain. I don't like the puddles. I don't know what it does. It makes me slower. I go off the track. Blah 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 blah. Well, the simple way to deal with all that is to use a four-wheel drive car. Mainly because you've always got grip. If you lose grip with one wheel, you lose grip at the front, then the rear kicks in, you lose grip at the rear, the front kicks in, etc. It's very self-explanatory. And this is a very good option. I raced this the other night, actually, while I was streaming around Sebring in the rain. And as we all know, Sebring is one of the more trollier tracks for the puddles. There's one on one of the back straights where the puddle just goes straight across the track, and it's like going through a small river. Well, this deals with it very well. It deals with any conditions like that very well, and it's also a very good car to drive in the dry. It's quick, it's nimble, it's got everything really. This thing, it's awesome. I mean, a lot of people use the Skyline, the 2002 one. That's fine. I've got one of those as well, but I prefer this. This is just more fun. It's more lively, and it's great. So with all that being said, let's have a look why it is that way, and let's get to it. Okay, so as usual, starting out, let's have a look at the engine. Sorry, forget the engine, because I can't put one in. Didn't actually know that. I didn't actually go anywhere near this because I'm not going to change the drivetrain. It's four-wheel drive. It is where it is. So you've got the engine, you've got that. She's stuck with it. Tough. Okay, we have got full aero on the front, full aero on the rear. I've customised the rear bumper for some reason. Just felt like it, I suppose. Also customised the skirts, again, no particular reason for it, just felt like it. We all have that little bit of customising little child inside us that likes to make things look nice. Even not that this looks great, but why not? And again, put that little thing on the roof. There we go. Little air duct thing on the roof for no reason whatsoever other than for decoration. I'm assuming that the game wants you to think it has some sort of performance advantage. I'm not sure whether it does, but it's there anyway. So yeah, that's how that's set up. Pretty pointless, really. Tyre compounds. We have got a sport tyre compound. Sorry, I thought I had street on this, but apparently I've got a sport tyre compound on this. We also have stock width on the front, so 235s and 275s on the rear, widest. Interestingly, your PI will go down the more you put your tyre width up on the rear. That's mainly because of a weight issue. So obviously, the wider you make the rim, the more weight you put on. Even though you're gaining handling and you're gaining grip, for some reason with a four-wheel drive car, doing that, you gain PI by making the rear tyres wider. So I can't think of many situations where you wouldn't do it, personally. Unless you're trying to save the ultimate amount of weight, you want to make things so light it's untrue, then that's fine. Do that. But there's no real point in that. This thing weighs a lot anyway. What does it weigh? It's 2,800. It's not the lightest thing in the world. Four-wheel drive cars, always going to be heavier because they are four-wheel drive. There's more mechanical parts going on there. You've got a couple of, I don't know the technicalities of it all, but we know what's going on underneath. There's things that are connecting the front wheels, the back wheels. There's drive shafts everywhere. It's very much more complicated than just a front or a wheel-wheel drive car. Now, rims, we have got the lightest possible rims, and they are stock size on both front and back. Stock clutch, stock transmission, street driveline, again just to balance out the PI, and of course a race diff. We have race brakes, race springs and dampers, of course race anti-roll bars, front and rear. We do have the roll cage in, keeping the thing as stiff as possible, and all the weight's been taken out. So even though all the weight's been taken out, you see, Still weighs 2,800. See, that's that four-wheel drive. It makes things so much heavier, but you do get, of course, the added grip. You get the chance to, you know, put a bit more power into it. Perhaps use slightly worse tyres. So you get, it is a balancing act. Add weight, but perhaps gain grip. It's, you know, it's interesting. Okay, so look at the engine. We've got the race intake, race fuel system, stock ignition, race exhaust, street cams, race valves, race engine block, race pistons, sport turbo, no intercooler, sorry, stock intercooler, sorry, usually it's no intercooler, stock intercooler, stock oil and cooling, and we have a sport flywheel. So that's all the parts I've done. Let's have a look at the numbers. Okay, so here with tyre pressure, 27.5 and 27. So this is slightly different because with a four-wheel drive, obviously, with all the wheels doing a lot of the work, getting temperature sometimes is a bit tough. Now I found that the front wasn't getting as warm as the rear, so that's basically why I've done this. This gives me that little extra bit of grip at the front. You want to aim for 32 psi. Ish, as close as you can get to 32 psi when your tyres are fully warm. So when you've done a couple of laps, check your telemetry, check your tyre pressures. If it's sitting at around 32, you're fine. If it's just above that, lower it slightly. If it's just below that, higher it slightly. This is the whole reason for that. The front was a little bit too cool. Raised it by half a psi, 0.5 psi even, and there you go. Sort it out. Obviously it's a stock gearbox, so I can't change any of that. So looking at camber, we've got minus 2.2 on the front and minus 2.3 on the rear. Slightly more than I would usually have, but things are slightly different with a four-wheel drive car than they are with a rear-wheel drive car. It's all about just keeping the balance of the car, keeping good turning, getting the power early on in the corner, and that's what these settings are all about. Tow, we've got 0.2 on the front and minus 0.1 on the rear. Now that's slightly different. Usually I have more on the rear, more negative on the rear than I do positive on the front. But again, with this, you don't need too much of either, to be honest. The front just needed a bit because I think the front's a little bit understeery at times. So that extra bit of tow just tries to cure that. It makes the front end more lively, gets the front end in easier, and it just feels good. The caster's set to 6.0. Again, that's just about the weight of the car, the weight distribution of the car. When you put your foot down, where does the weight of the car go? It's all about, as I say, the axis. It tells you, everyone knows one axis is the center point of where the car is balanced on. And that's just about finding the right place where that should be to keep the car maximised in terms of acceleration and braking, and that's a pretty good point to have it on most cars. Anti-roll bars we've got set to 21.52 at the front and 17.71, very symmetrical at the rear. Again, slightly less on the rear because I didn't want too much oversteer, slightly more at the front because, you know, you always need a little bit more on the front, and especially this is 57% weight bias towards the front, so it's going to need a hell of a lot actually more in terms of the support on the front end and the rear end, because you're going to be braking, all that weight's going to be going to the front, and you know, that's what it's all about. You've got to think about when you brake, when you accelerate, where's the weight of the car going? When you're cornering, where's the weight of the car going? You want to keep the thing as balanced as possible to get the best results. That's what it's all about. That's what tuning is all about. Springs we've got set to 804.2 on the front and 606.7 on the rear. Again, it's using the same calculation as always. Take the weight of the car, times it by 0. Whatever the balance of the car is towards the front, divide that by 2, and that will give you a number around 804.2. Same again for the rear, only with the remaining weight percentage. So weight of the car times 0. Whatever the remaining weight is. So in this case it'd be 43, so 0.43. Divide that by 2 and you will get something around 606.7. Ride height, again, I usually go 3 from the bottom, but with this one I've got 2 from the bottom. It doesn't really matter. It's not. This isn't a thing that affects the car. Usually you may see a difference in your 0 to 100 times and your 0 to 60 times, but not a great deal of difference. It's just about feel and what you prefer. You can have it higher, you can have it lower. I just tend to have it a bit lower than most people, I think. Rebound is 8.5 and 7.8. Again, as a general rule in my mind, sometimes it doesn't always work, but if you take the weight bias of the car, so perfectly neutral would be 50-50. So this is 57%. In my mind, I don't know if this has any bearing at all in terms of what is actually true, but in my mind, a base to set up with is to go, so say again 50-50, so it's 57%, so that's 7% higher. So I usually put a ratio between these two of 0.7 in this case. It has worked with this, but it doesn't always work with every car. It's not a sure thing. It's a thing that perhaps works, I'm going to say 50% of the time. It doesn't always work at all, but it's a good way to start as a base tune. So if you get, like I say, if you start with 53%, have a ratio of 3 between these two things, between these two numbers, sorry. It's a good place to start. It doesn't always work, like I say, and obviously other settings on the car do have a bearing on how this will work out. So say if you've got a bit more tow, it kind of affects where your rebound will be. Same with if you've got a bit more camber, etc. These things all affect each other. It's all very relative. It's all very contextualized between what works with what. It's all about finding a balance, and yeah, that's it. Now the rebound is set to 5.5 and 4.6. Now again, play with that. The rebound isn't such a huge determining factor on how a car handles, but it does help turn in when under braking, and it also keeps the car balanced like anything else does. But it's not such a determining factor as say the rebound is. Downforce has got a bit less than standard. As you can see, the car has got actually quite a lot of standard rear downforce. I mean, that's quite low. I've set it to it. It's still got 162 pounds, and the front is set to 70. So yeah, my original tune for this car didn't have any downforce on it at all, and I learned that I was kind of penalising myself really, because it was really quick. I think it did about 198 mile an hour, but I was losing out in corners. Like I couldn't get the power down as quick as I wanted, and the thing now still does apparently 184 mile an hour, and it's got a 0 to 100 time in 6.3 seconds. So those stats there are pretty lightning quick, and it feels that. It's a really fun car to drive. But like I say, the downforce, I just needed to add a bit just to make the thing more friendly through the corners. Braking, as usual, 48% balance for me and 85% pressure. Simple as that. It's pretty much stock for me on every car I tune now. I'm used to that. It's the way I drive. I love it. It's fine. Okay, so we have a four-wheel drive diff here. Now, first thing I'm going to say is I always set the balance with these things to 50-50. It makes the car handle extremely easily, very well balanced, and you just get a very even spread of power. Obviously you get 50-50 spread of power. You never feel like the front end's giving away too much or the rear end's trying to kick out too much. It just works very well. Now my rear diff is set to pretty much as I always have it, to 76 and 81. That's always where I'm at. And my front, I've got 60 at the front and 65 at the rear. Again, this is all on feel. I don't know if there's any actual basis to this. I've not done any research into this. I've not done any official sort of, not been on forums trolling about and finding out what works and what doesn't. This is just what I found works for me, and I find it really works well for me. If it doesn't work for you, fine, change it, but give it a go, see what it's like. If you've got any ideas, please do leave comments in the chat about what I might be doing wrong, but I think this is really good. I think this works really well. So yeah, as I say, this car is really good for wet weather. It's really good for tracks where, maybe you just want an easier race for once. You don't want to concentrate too much on grip and finding the right line. That's what four-wheel drives are all about for me. It's an easier way of playing the game. You don't have to worry about, oh Christ, the rear ends let go a bit. Oh no, all this, that, and the other. It's a simple car. It's really easy, fun car to drive. I would say you have to use the gearbox a bit differently. You have to be a bit more aggressive with it. You have to shift down perhaps where you wouldn't do usually with a rear-wheel drive car. Like maybe you'd let the gear ride through the corner and keep the power on. With this, I find myself shifting up and down a lot more because it just feels like an aggressive car. You have to drive it reasonably aggressively. But having said that, you're not really ever going to spin out with it. You're not going to have any calamitous accidents unless someone obviously smashes into you. The thing's just great. It's stable. It's fun. So yeah, please do try it out. If you enjoy it, please do drop a like on the video, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.